headlines on this Tuesday afternoon, February 6th, here on the Korean Peninsula. The government here is announcing its medical school enrollment quota today, in line with efforts to ease the shortage in medical staff in rural regions and in essential care. And President Yoon is pardoning over 450,000 people, including 5 business figures and 7 politicians, in light of this week's Lunar New Year holiday, which begins on Friday. Meanwhile, the OECD raises its global economic outlook to 2.9% for this year, but lowers its projection for South Korea to 2.2%. We tell you why. The size of next year's medical school enrollment quota will be shared this afternoon, and related clashes are expected between the government and the nation's doctors. Our Shin Ha-young starts us off.
An announcement regarding an increase in annual admission quotas at medical schools is expected on Tuesday to tackle doctor shortages in areas outside the capital as well as in essential medical areas. The plan for the increase is expected to be released after a 2 p.m. meeting on medical workforce policies. If decided, it will be applied from 2025 and will be the first hike in 19 years, as the quota has remained unchanged at 3,058 per year since 2006.
국민의 건강과 생명을 지키기 위해 의사 인력 확대는 더 이상 늦출 수 없는 시대적 과제입니다. 국민의 생명과 건강은 물론 이 나라의 미래를 지키기 위한 의료개혁에 의료계의 협조를 당부드립니다.
Last week, the government laid out its medical reform plan where it projected a doctor shortage of 15,000 by 2035. The increase in capacity is expected to be more than an initial estimate of between 350 and 500, possibly exceeding 1,500 doctors next year. The Korean Association of Medical Colleges said that an increase of 350 students in the enrollment quota for next year will be appropriate. Ahead of the government's announcement, the Korean Medical Association, which opposes the expansion, held a press conference on Tuesday. It said if the government pressed ahead with expansion without consultation with the association, there would be a strike and the association's executive members would resign. According to a survey conducted by the Korean Intern Residents Association last month, 86% of the respondents expressed willingness to participate in a strike if there is an expansion. In response, the Ministry of Health and Welfare announced a strong countermeasure. It is reportedly set to issue immediate return to work orders if doctors go on strike. Also, it is considering disciplinary action for those who do not comply with the orders. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
President Yoon is pardoning over 450,000 people, including 5 business figures and 7 politicians, in light of this week's Lunar New Year holiday, which begins this coming Friday. Intentions to this end were shared by the president during a cabinet meeting earlier on this Tuesday. Among those on the special pardon list is former Defense Minister Kim Kwon-jin, who had been accused of abusing his authority back in 2018. The government says the pardoning of former public officials seeks to ensure closure and to open a fresh chapter of harmony. Meanwhile, Korea's political parties are clashing over the parliament's current system of representation in hopes of raising their respective prospects of victory in April's general election. Our National Assembly correspondent Lee Si-hoo explains.
The leader of the main opposition Democratic Party, Lee Jae-myung, announced on Monday that his party has decided to keep the current system of proportional representation in the upcoming 22nd general election. In the current semi-mixed member proportional representation system, or the MMP system, the percentage of votes earned determines the number of proportional representation seats a party can occupy. For example, when the number of regional seats a party has is less than the percentage of votes received, the party can occupy additional seats in proportional representation. This system was introduced before the 21st general election to help smaller parties enter the assembly, but its objective has since been tarnished, with larger parties establishing paper parties, or the so-called satellite parties, to earn more representation. Now, as the DP holds the majority in the assembly, occupying 164 out of 298 seats, the election will likely take place as announced by Lee Jae-myung. However, the ruling People Power Party, which has called for the return to the mixed-member majoritarian representation, or the MMM system, strongly criticized Lee's decision. The leader of its Emergency Steering Committee, Han Dong-un, said that this would only cause voter confusion and that the election system should not be decided by a single person. The MMM system called for by the PPP separately allocates the regional and proportional representation seats. It was adopted in the 16th through 20th Assembly. Amid talks on the electoral system, the ruling and opposition parties are finding ways to prepare to win as many seats as possible. PPP last week launched a new satellite party. DP says it also plans to establish a party for proportional votes. Lee Si-hu, Arirang News.
Staying in Seoul, a support group representing Korea and Africa was launched on this Tuesday during an economic meeting ahead of a summit in June. According to Seoul's industry ministry, the group includes over 30 organizations of both public and private economic interests and aims to bolster collaboration between 54 African nations and South Korea. The talks on Tuesday also include energy ventures and trade initiatives. The OECD has raised its global economic outlook for this year, but lowered, albeit slightly, its forecast for South Korea. Our Park Ko-nu explains.
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development revised its 2024 global economic growth projection upwards as it sharply increased its outlook for the United States. According to the OECD's latest interim economic outlook released on Monday, the global economy is expected to grow by 2.9% from an earlier estimated 2.7% made in November. However, the revised outlook is a slowdown compared to the 2023 annual growth of 3.1%, amid weakened growth momentum, continuous monetary tightening, and China's weak economic condition. The organization predicted the U.S. will continue its moderate 2.1% growth, a revision from its previous projection of 1.5%, due to weakening inflation and drops in interest rates. However, it said China's economy is expected to slow down due to its sluggish asset market and high debt, while keeping its growth projection of 4.7% made in November. As for South Korea, the OECD forecasts 2.2% growth this year, 0.1 percentage point lower than its previous projection in November. This year's figure is the same as that projected for 2024 by the government and the Korea Development Institute. Regarding inflation, the organization expects most countries to return to their targets by the end of 2025, as headline and core inflation rates gradually ease. The OECD kept its rate projection for South Korea this year at 2.7%. The organization pointed out the possibility of high inflation caused by geopolitical risks in the Middle East and debt burden caused by high interest rates as downward factors for the global economy. The OECD said countries need to be cautious with monetary policies and in securing fiscal soundness, along with making efforts to restore global supply chains and free trade throughout the year. Park Ko-nu, Arirang News.
Washington says Pyongyang's cruise missile testings are, quote, deeply destabilizing. The State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel added that such actions by North Korea serve to raise risks within the Indo-Pacific region. The remarks were made to reporters as the regime engages in a series of cruise missile launches, which it claims include fresh nuclear capabilities. Meanwhile, in a separate press briefing, Pentagon Press Secretary Patrick Ryder underscored the, quote, excellent relationship among South Korea, the U.S. and Japan against North Korean threats. In the UK, concerns and well-wishes have been expressed and shared following news of King Charles's cancer diagnosis. Our Lee Sing-jae reports.
Buckingham Palace said Monday that King Charles III had been diagnosed with cancer. The palace said that the medical tests revealed a form of cancer, but did not clarify what type of cancer King Charles was diagnosed with. However, royal officials said that the form of cancer detected was not prostate cancer. The remarks come after the 75-year-old monarch went to a London hospital for a corrective procedure for an enlarged prostate last month, leading to prostate cancer speculation. With Charles beginning treatment, he will take a break from his public-facing duties, as recommended by doctors, but will continue his official state duties. Other senior royals, including Queen Camilla and Prince William, will reportedly cover public engagements. Meanwhile, Prince Harry will travel to London to be at his father's side in the coming days. The Duke of Sussex's last appearance at a royal occasion took place in May during the coronation of King Charles. Harry moved to the U.S. with his wife Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, after they stepped back as senior royals in 2020. Since then, his relationship with some other royals has been strained. World leaders have expressed concerns over the cancer diagnosis, including U.S. President Joe Biden, who said he would be speaking with him soon after hearing of his diagnosis. 이승재, Arirang News.
Thank you.
And over in the U.S., female artists took home the top honors at this year's Grammys, while their K-pop counterparts did not make it onto the nomination list this time around. Our Ian Jin reports.
On Sunday night at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, the 66th Annual Grammy Awards honored the year's best recordings, compositions, and artists. With women dominating the music industry's top honors, Taylor Swift cemented her position as one of the greatest songwriters of her era, as she became the first artist to win the Grammy Award for Album of the Year for the 4th time with her 10th studio album, Midnights. Miley Cyrus won Record of the Year for Flowers, Billie Eilish won Song of the Year for What Was I Made For, and R&B singer-songwriter Victoria Monet won Best New Artist. But K-pop was nowhere to be found. BTS had been nominated for Best Pop Duo Group Performance in the previous 3 years. And despite BTS having won trophies at other major American music award ceremonies like the Billboard Music Awards and the American Music Awards, K-pop artists were absent from this year's list of nominees. A professor of Korean and East Asian studies suggests the reason lies in the more regional nature of the awards and K-pop's strive for a more global audience.
The Grammys have always been primarily about the USA and to a certain extent English language music produced with an emphasis on the US market. And K-pop is focused on outward expansion, and it does want the approval of the US market, but it's also looking at the rest of the world. K-pop hasn't lost itself chasing an American dream, and in many ways it's more global than the regionally focused artists at the Grammys.
Female artists dominated this year, taking home all the major prizes. But in 2023, only 19.5% of all songwriters across the Billboard Hot 100 songs were women. Ian Jin, Arirang News.
Well, despite the disappointment at the Grammys for K-pop this year, the genre itself is seeking to expand its outreach via the big screen. Our Moon Hye-ryan was at the screening of the musical movie K-School to take a look.
K-pop meets the international stage in a new format, the big screen as a musical film. The press premiere for K-School, the world's first musical movie in 8K resolution, took place here in Seoul on Monday. With K-pop stars such as Yena from April and Taewon from Ujusonya starring in lead roles in the movie, other idol groups 8 and Amers came to show their support for the film. K-School is a musical film about a young girl called Sua who has a natural flair for fashion design but is struggling to make ends meet and chases her dreams by working as a cleaner at a top fashion college, K-School. Throughout the 120-minute running time, the audience is taken through several choreographed musical numbers to show Sua's journey as she overcomes various obstacles. The film won awards in 4 different categories at the Toronto International Nollywood Film Festival in 2022, including in the musical theme film category and the Viewer's Choice Award. Director Bang Mi-kyung, who also won the Best Female Filmmaker Award in the international category, explained that the film was able to resonate with the global audience due to the message it delivers.
This is a film about dreams. Dreams aren't just for young people. People can also have new dreams later in life. I planned and produced this content for a global audience because I thought it would resonate with everyone.
She also spoke of K-pop's global popularity and how it influenced the film.
K-pop idols are able to sing and dance and are also good actors. So something that combined all of these traits was a musical based on K-pop.
As for the K-pop stars featured in K-Score, they talked about how fan support meant a lot to them as the release of the movie was delayed by 3 years due to COVID-19.
I was really nervous since it was my debut on the big screen, but now that 3 years have gone by since I began shooting and the film will be seen by audiences, I just hope that it will receive a lot of love.
Those wanting to check out the movie can do so at cinemas across South Korea from February 21st. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Museum souvenirs that have been made to better cater to the tastes of Korea's younger generation are driving a new consumption craze here on the local front. Our Yoon has this report.
Museum merchandise is undergoing a unique transformation. By having the aesthetic appeal and practicality of certain replicas enhanced, they are captivating the younger generation, creating widespread interest on social media. A miniature of the pensive Bodhisattva statue, famous for its smile and a designated national treasure, is the best-selling item. As the original replica of the statue was seen as unappealing to people in their 20s and 30s due to its size, the National Museum Foundation of Korea created the miniature version to make the statue more accessible. Another national treasure is the Baekje Guild bronze incense burner. Its replica miniature sold out within a week of its release, amid a growing interest in older styles among the younger generations who are drawn to unique and meaningful items.
We have captured the details of the original artifacts with advanced 3D printing technology and incorporated a variety of colors. Not only does it serve as a beautiful decoration, but it also functions as an incense burner, just like the original artifact.
The revenue generated from museum merchandise reached almost 15 billion Korean won, or around $11 million in 2023. This is about a 27% increase in annual sales in 2022, which had set the highest record at the time.
The designs are different from what I had thought in the past.
I wasn't very interested in museum merchandise, but seeing them for the first time, I want to buy a few of them.
I bought several things which is very, very nice, well designed. This is a cup, and it is with a lot of Oriental type of design ideas. It gives you some kind of a very pleasant feeling.
This newly released set of drinking glasses constantly crashes the website due to high demand. As the number of purchases by tourists is also increasing, the foundation is focusing on creating practical and lightweight items that visitors can easily take back as souvenirs, commemorating their visit to the National Museum.
There's also a special hall that displays different kinds of museum merch. Here, people can try out the items and get a feel for how they might look when displayed in their own homes.
Historical artifacts are going beyond their traditional significance and becoming personal treasures that are used and seen in people's everyday lives. Yoon, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. In the US, California authorities are carrying out emergency rescue operations after a severe winter storm hit the area, causing substantial damage. NBC reports that at least 3 people have died in fallen tree accidents and more than 415,000 homes and businesses are without power. What's called an atmospheric river hung over Southern California, with Los Angeles recording its rainiest day ever. Surrounding areas were hit also with heavy rain, near hurricane winds, with flash floods and landslides. The National Weather Service said on Monday that some 40 million were under flood, winter storm and high wind advisories, and that 10.4 centimeters of rain fell in downtown LA, breaking the record of 6.35 centimeters set in 1927. Nasdaq-listed search engine company Yandex NV, often referred to as Russia's Google, struck a $5.2 billion cash and share deal on Monday to sell all its assets and operations in Russia to a consortium of investors. This solidifies Russia's grip on Yandex, which is owned by a Dutch parent company, as the Kremlin has been attempting to break it away from Western investors. The decision comes as a result of some 18 months of negotiations between the Kremlin and Yandex. Although Yandex's market capitalization was around $10.2 billion, the Russian government's mandatory demand of a discount of at least 50% to fair value involving foreign asset sales brought down the final price to half of its value. In 2021, before Russia invaded Ukraine, Yandex was valued at around $30 billion. In Pakistan, at least 10 police officers were killed and 6 injured in Monday's pre-dawn attack by armed militants on a police station in Dera Ismail Khan, near the border with Afghanistan. The militants began the attack with sniper rifle at around 3 a.m. local time before entering the building armed with guns, grenades and rockets. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. However, Pakistan has seen a resurgence of attacks by Islamist militants since 2022, when a ceasefire agreement between Pakistani Taliban and the government ended. 2 months ago, a suicide bomber detonated a vehicle filled with explosives outside a police station in the same district, killing at least 23 and wounding 32. In El Salvador, President Nayib Bukele won re-election on Sunday after securing a victory by a large margin. 42-year-old President Bukele has been credited with driving down El Salvador's gang violence, including the country's murder rate. Since coming to power in 2019, Bukele has transformed El Salvador from one of the most violent countries in the world to one of the safest in Latin America. His Nuevas Ideas party won at least 58 out of 60 seats in the National Assembly. Despite domestic popularity, Bukele remains a controversial figure for potential human rights violations related to anti-gang arrests. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Hello, I'm Lee Ji-hyun with the latest weather updates. On and off snow and rain continued all day yesterday in the capital, and parts of Gangwon-do province, including Gangneung and Hongcheon, saw massive snowfall of more than 30 centimeters. Please stay safe on the road. Well, most of the snow has let up except in some southern areas and mountainous regions on Jeju, with more snow in the forecast for today. Starting off the day, 1 to 7 degrees lower than yesterday in most parts, and highs should go up to similar to Monday, hovering slightly above season norms. Seoul sees a high of 5 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Then Wednesday looks to be chillier but sunnier than today. Checking on today's highs for other regions, Daegu and Gwangju see highs of 7 degrees, Busan, Jeju topping out at 9 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Mostly cloudy skies are in store for most places today. Promising weather is on tap for the Seollal holiday weekend under much brighter skies nationwide, so the weather will not affect your travel plans. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
And those are the headlines at this hour here in Korea. We return with our panel of foreign journalists right after this break. Do stay with us.